again. Here we are almost right into spring, in the beginning of spring, and as promised I'll show you a nice wide selection of West Australian wildflowers to grow in your garden right throughout the southern region of the state anyway. Back in, just to start it off tonight, back in first rains I told you to sow your everlastings, and I told you how, I'll show you how to dry them when they were in flower. So presumably if you put them in first rains, you should have a little display right throughout the garden like so. But a lot of people don't realise when you pick them, the everlastings, you don't pick them all in full bloom. If you pick them in full bloom, once you cut the sap off, they tend to pull themselves back and go to seed. So I just thought I'd explain that a little bit more simply. So there they are in full flower, but if you pick them in bud, like that. And strangely enough, as soon as you pick them, they will pull out. You can pick them as quite as young as you like, but when you pick them in bud, some in bud, you can pick some a little bit out and hang them upside down. The reason for hanging them upside down would be to dry them out, let all the sap come out of the stem, and when you've dried them, when they are fully out, you'll have them like so. There's some I picked the other day, just to give you an idea. But the stems are quite dry, and you can have this beautiful display where we can keep them in a vase for years, like that. That's the common one, but it also applies to all everlastings. This is the other one. That was Heliptrum roseum. This is the helichrysum, the golden everlasting, but you can see there, little bunch I picked in the garden in bud. So in one day, or even in an hour, strangely enough, in an hour, that will be out like that. So again, hang them upside down. The reason for that is to let the stems dry out, and you'll get a nice display. But I'll just show you in a little bit more detail. If you pick them in flower like this, you'll get the seeds. They'll come into seed straight away. You can see that old seeds there. Oh, there's another one there. See those seeds there. So that's gone too far. You want them to dry like that. You can hear that papery everlasting feeling there. So that's just a little hint on everlasting. So if you pick them some when they're in bud now, you'll have them right through the year with everlastings. As mentioned, all these flowers that I've picked, especially today, are all out of my garden, and they're only 2 years old from young ones. So if you plant them reasonably small, you can have a display like this in 2 years. That applies with all the varieties that I've previously spoken on also. But just to start off on the plants, just I'll talk briefly again on the wattles, or acacias. The first one is Acacia lasiocarpa. One of the really nice little low-growing wattles that comes from, or grows naturally on the coastal sands, or even in limestone, right down to beach sand. It's a very good little low one, and that particular one is a gold pom-pom. Has the round catkins in a gold. And the one after it, above it here, is Acacia cuneata, or used to be called Acacia cuneata, is now called Acacia truncata. And as you can see there, it's a paler yellow. And you get a contrast even with the wattles. Majority of the wattles do flower yellow, and generally late winter, spring. But there's such a range of them, there's a good selection there. And they're two very good ones that are low growing. Acacia lasiocarpa, the first one, only grows to up to ½ a metre. It's a very low one, and probably up to 1 metre across. A very tight little compact bush. A little bit pungent. Some of them have a slight prickles, but that one, a little fern-like foliage, and there's a plant of it there. That's a reasonable size to plant. You wouldn't want to put them in much bigger than that, because wattles are so fast growing that they nearly mature in 1 to 2 years. They'll flower in the first year and well and truly nearly mature in the second year. They're that quick growing in the wattles. Acacia truncata, as I said, the second one, the paler yellow flowering one, grows to 2 metres. Probably if you irrigate it in the summer, in an irrigated situation, obviously it will grow a little bit more. But just the two final things on the wattles. A lot of people think that the wattles give hay fever, but generally the pollen falls. It doesn't float around as much as people think. It's quite heavy and it just falls straight down. And another thing, if you wanted to prune a wattle, you wouldn't prune it back hard. You'd only tip prune it, because generally they don't respond to pruning. So if you want a wattle, choose it to grow in its correct size. Don't get one and expect to prune it every year. So generally I don't think that you would vase pick them, because they're so strong. That's the wattles. Now, everybody would know the native wisteria, and the first one is the general one is the purple or violet one, and Hardenbergia comptoniana. But there's two new introductions, two new colours, and the first one I thought I'd show you would be the white one. This is in our native wisteria. You can see that the massive display of flowers they have there. That's the white one, and a new pink one. This is our local native wisteria. You can see there. Possibly, I could show it to you a bit closer up to give you a better idea. You can see the colours there. Purple one, the white one, and the pink one. Beautiful, and they start late winter and they go right through spring. It's a very versatile shrub, the native wisteria. Hardenbergia grows naturally on the coastal sands. It'll grow in limestone. It'll go right down to the beach. It's a beautiful shrub. It can be used as a late climber. It'll grow up trees. You can plant it on dead stumps, wire. Perfect one on old wire, anything like that. It's a really good one and should be used a lot more. Very versatile. It'll grow in all soils. Because it comes from sand, it doesn't mean it won't grow inland, right into the heavier soils. It's a very versatile one. So I'd recommend the native wisteria to everybody. It's, as most people would know, it's Boronia time again. I always think that it's worth bringing on and mentioning, because the main thing probably about the Boronia is that it would have less resistance. But I think if you're growing the Boronia, plant it in a semi-protected situation and straight into the sand or heavier soil, whatever you've got. And if you have to, give it some supplementary watering. But I definitely would recommend to pick it. The heavier you pick it, it responds very well to picking. The more you pick it, you're going to reduce all that foliage so it's not carrying it through the oncoming summer. So reduce it all back, vase pick it right back to half its size, and you'll find that it'll be a better plant for the next year. And that generally applies to all plants. There's very few, as I mentioned, that probably the wattle would be probably the wattles and the banksias would be the ones that would least pick. But all plants, generally, that applies to trees too. If you want to reduce their canopy or their foliage, you can give them a fairly heavy prune from now on, and you'll find that all that foliage would require less water in the oncoming summer. That's another way of conserving water. Another low-growing one is Grevillea thelemaniana. It's a very good low-growing, almost a ground cover type. That's one of the forms there, and this is another one here. But that would peacefully show you its growing habit there. It's almost a very low spreading shrub. You can see the stems there running along the ground. The Grevillea thelemaniana grows naturally in the limestone coastal situation, but again is very versatile and a good sub-shrub. And you can see there the colour of the flowers. It's a nice light red, commonly known as spider flowers, the Grevilleas. What else can I say about it? That I think every garden needs a combination of, every selection needs a combination of Grevilleas, because they attract the birds, and they're just a nice little shrub. Sub-shrub, Grevillea thelemaniana will grow in semi-shade, another advantage of it. You could use it as a ground cover. The spider flowers and Grevilleas. I have previously had Isopogans on, or the drumsticks. This particular one, Isopogan formosus, grows naturally in the southern areas, right down to the Albany regions and east across, but it has variable forms, and it grows right into the Darlings and a little bit north, various variable foliage forms. But this particular one, Isopogan formosus, is a very, very good shrub, to 1 to 2 metres. Responds, as I mentioned, responds to pruning. It's a very good vase picking one. You can see there the flowers have the flowers that have passed, and it's got a lot of buds coming. And another good thing about it is that they don't just flower for a little while. They flower for, if you started vase picking them last month, you'd still have them right up till the end of next month. It's a very long flowering time. And that generally applies to most of them. If you start picking them early, so a lot of them will form new buds and you'll have a continuing flower display. Isopogan formosus, the drumsticks, will grow in all soils, in the Perth sands and in the heavier soils as well. They're very versatile. So even though a lot of these, they're recommended for, say, a lighter soil, a well-drained soil, they also grow into a clay, laterite clay situation. So I would give that one a try also. It'll grow in semi-shade, under trees, so it's a good sub-shrub in Isopogan. Another low-growing Grevillea that hasn't been spoken about much is Grevillea nudiflora, a really, really good low-spreading Grevillea. It's in cultivation now. Most nurseries are growing it, so it is available. Not a lot I can say about it. You can just see its low-spreading habit there. It's got fine green foliage, and it displays all its tiny little red Grevillea spider flowers all on the ground. A very good ground cover Grevillea. Again, they'll grow in all soil situations, so you can trim these old flower spikes off after they've flowered if you like, but you'll find that it would respond to a light prune, and you'll get more flowers the following year in Grevillea nudiflora. Another Grevillea I thought I would talk a little bit about is, I have talked about it before also, is Grevillea biternata. You can see there it's growing low-growing habit, and I said that I'd try and give a combination of flowers. If you try and pick about 3 varieties at once, either any one of those, possibly one of the Wattles that I've spoken about, and that'll give you a gold, say, ground cover type. Definitely plant them in groups. I would at least select 3 of each, unless it's a very vigorous one like this Grevillea biternata. You could use that as a ground cover. The Wattles coming up through it, and this red bottle brush type flower here, Kunzea pulchella, as a red. So give you that nice combination of red, white, and gold flowers. There are a lot of other colours, as I mentioned, say in next month's program, you could join those varieties up with the last month's, and you'll get a good display there. So Kunzea pulchella grows to 2 metres. It's a very open type shrub, grows in the driest, heaviest soil there is, and is very versatile in the sand. And these ones I would definitely recommend to give them a trim, just like, say, Geraint wax. Most people know about trimming Geraint wax. Well, these I would definitely give them a trim after they flower, and you'll find they'll have a really good display after. And that's Grevillea biternata and Kunzea pulchella. I didn't mention, just going back to the beginning, I didn't mention that all these vases, some people have been inquiring that these vases are black boy, the bases of black boy, the core that is right down in the ground, and they're black boy vases there. So there's an interesting West Australian wildflower selection, so good luck with them until next time.